Hey, this is now a longer podcast. It was going to be a very short FMQ, but my unconscious mind got the better of me. And it said, you don't have to have a problem. Not one of those problems that you have to think about and then worry about. And that worry turns to anxiety, and that anxiety turns to maybe depressive thoughts, or it becomes for total fear, panic attacks, FOMO, imposter, all that stuff. Because you don't need to. You just have to park it and leave it to me. Now, if that's of interest, and it should be, have a listen after this. Hey, welcome to the Personal Development Unplugged podcast. So pleased you're here. Your time is valuable and precious. So what I would like to do is fill that time that you share with me with the most shiny golden nuggets to help improve your life, to get your goals, your wishes, your dreams to come to fruition quicker, bigger, better than you could ever imagine, using your imagination, using hypnosis, using NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, all of that, using all things of the mind. No brain hacks, but real solid processes to deconstruct what people do to become great. And then find the processes that we can install that in ourselves to support you in your dreams and get what you really want in life. Anyway, who am I? I'm Paul Clough, and just going to have conversations with you in this podcast and get you thinking, but also share those processes because we're going to have so much fun. That's it. We're going to have fun for a change because we can sit down for a spell and have more fun than we can stand, creating the world we want to live in and be the person we want to be in that world. The only limitation is your imagination. And you got bucket loads, by the way, bucket loads. Have a listen. You really must.
Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Welcome, my friend. This is the Personal Development Unplugged podcast, and it's all about, well, today, this episode is about parking a problem. Now, what does that mean, parking a problem? Because I always used to think, if you park a problem, you're putting it off. You're delaying the inevitable, that didn't have a positive connotation to me. The thing is, it does. You see, what reminded me of this is that it was just yesterday, actually. I was working with this lovely client, and it was their second session. And one of the reasons they were there is because they were really worrying about the state of the world. In fact, it was getting very scary for them to be in the world. And it was affecting the way they were just being in themselves, thinking about their career, their work, in fact, basically their family, everything was being affected by it. And it wasn't just scary. There was more to it. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but there was more to it. And it did go back to childhood. And the root cause was, say, way back, wasn't frightening. It was a little bit scary. And it would have been for a younger them. But it sort of helped them back then. You see, their unconscious mind did what it could do with the wisdom it had, the experience it had, and decided, well, if I can make you worry just a little bit about what might happen, I can give you these little thoughts in your head, those pictures in your mind. Maybe that'll just protect you from going into that place or pulling you away from that space of causing the fear. And it worked back then. But over time, it just grew and grew and grew until it's overwhelming. And everything was, as I say, just overwhelming and on top of them. And we did the work. Second session yesterday. It's all done, by the way. 2 sessions, boom. But in between that, we were just talking about these looping thoughts. And I was thinking to myself, at least I think I was thinking, I thought about it after and tried to give myself a bit of credit that I could think at the time, but I just trusted my unconscious mind, which is what I do when I work with people. And I wanted to talk about looping thoughts, because we all have looping thoughts, don't we? Do we? I do. This client did. And I'm sure other people do, the people I talk to. We all have these thoughts and worries. And what happens is, I guess, we get a thought in our mind and we start to worry a little bit about it. Because there is a form of, that positive intention of keeping you safe. That's what it was for my client, keeping them safe, keeping them away from that situation. So we've got that positive intention, I want to keep you safe. We start to have a little bit of worry. And then sometimes that leads to a little bit of anxiety, anxiousness, because those thoughts don't go, have a think about this, boom, boom, boom. No, they go, and what if? And what if? Oh, let's go back to the beginning again, and let's go, what if? And they loop, and they loop, and they loop. Have you had that before? No, I do. I have. Because as much as the work we do, I think there is so much going on all the time, and we're moving into new experiences. It's a lovely adventure, this life. But that adventure will give us, occasionally, things, say it again, to think about. But that worry leading to anxiety, anxiousness, could then lead into maybe depression, could lead into OCD. Can continue, because that's just keeps on and on and on. Could lead to FOMO, fear of missing out. Imposter syndrome. All these little things become another effect of this issue. We started with a little worry. If you've experienced that, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, have a listen anyway, because you may do. I think it's a big generalization, but we all do. And I don't want to get general, but we do. So here's the thing. Having done that great work, because we cleared it now, so we can think of a few conscious ways that we could help the unconscious mind. So you've got all these new ways, and we got new ways to deal with that, to understand the conflict that was going on, learn from the events and things like that. That's part of the therapy, hypnotherapy, NLP and that. But I wanted to say, I wanted to give you something from my life. This is to the client. And I want to share it with you. You see, when you have a worry that comes along, it's there. So let's utilize it. And let's utilize both your unconscious and conscious mind. Because instead of going into that endless loop, which is one phenomena, what would happen if we used another one? I'm going to tell you what the phenomena is later. But if we utilize them, we're still keeping the wonderful positive intention, the intention to keep you safe, but doing it in a way that gives you no worry at all. In fact, I think it gives you more confidence. You feel so much more in control. You have that inner strength. You're taking responsibility. So, what do? Well, I suggested, you see, there's so much noise in the world, even now, isn't there? So much noise. You can hear it everywhere. We've talked about the noise before. It's in the news. You switch on the news on the TV. Bam! They are loving the bloody thing. Funny enough, sometimes what was the biggest thing to worry about yesterday, it disappeared because there's something even better to worry about. They can really go for it and scare the living bejeebers out of you. And I'm sure they're doing it with a wonderful best intention, maybe for their advertisers, but who knows? That's another subject, I guess, but not for me. I'm not that well versed in it. Just a little bit skeptical. But there's a noise from the telly. There's a noise from the radio. Some podcasts might give you some of that. If they don't give you the answers, they just give you the worries. They don't give you the how-tos. Maybe what you read online. Because as soon as you flick on to something, you get an advert about something. And sometimes even the things you think are news are bloody adverts, aren't they? All these issues and problems. So I said to myself, in my head, WTF? let's go for this. Let's think about what could we do using this natural phenomena, which I'll tell you about later. Going to keep you just dangling on the end of this string. So, I said, have you ever thought of having your own puzzle book? And I said, what's a puzzle book, Paul? I said, let me explain. You know I love my puzzle books. The very special ones, you know, are yellow. I love yellow, so the best puzzle books are yellow, but they could be any size, from this size, which is really small, to this size, which is really big. But the thing about this puzzle book, I just wanted to explain one element of it. Not all the stuff I use my puzzle book for, but I just wanted to use one element to say, if you get a thought, you get a worry, you get something that's going to make you think and loop, you think, you say, whoa, stop, let's just stop. I've got a puzzle book here, and I'm going to do what Cluffy says. And also that's backed up by Joe Rogan, by the way. Not at all, really. But it is, because he wrote, and actually, one of the things I remember him saying is, if you get a problem, write that sucker down. And I think he said sucker. But write that sucker down. And that's awesome, because that's part of this natural phenomena now. You write it down, and you don't have to spend a long time. You know, we don't want 14 pages. Why 14? I don't know, but you could have 13 or 12 or whatever. But you could just be a sentence, just so you know what the issue is. So you write it down. Now you could write it down, and if you're a busy boy, busy girl, you can just leave it written down, put it back in your pocket, because you're going to come back to it. So that's one thing. So now you can say, well, that's in my pocket, in my puzzle book. I don't need to think about it right now, consciously, because I'm going to think about it later. And therefore, you've already parked it, haven't you? But you've parked it with an intention to come back to it later. And that later is going to be a specific time, maybe. You're going to come back to it tonight, going to come back to it at lunchtime. Don't just let it float off, because then your unconscious mind goes, yeah, probably. Maybe, whatever. What if you didn't? What if you didn't? And we start that worry off, no? It's in my pocket. That's me tapping my pocket, by the way. And I'm going to come back to it later. So I've parked it with taking responsibility for putting it back. But the thing is, okay, you've written in your puzzle book. What happens? Well, you may even write it in your puzzle book and want to deal with it there and then. What do you mean deal with it, Cluffy? Here's the thing. How do you deal with this worry? Well, you've written down what you think the worry is. What's that noise? And you say to yourself, I think I ought to ask myself a question. Because we do, don't we? We always say that to ourselves. Well, maybe I do. I love questions. So many people, if you listen to other podcasts and other people who follow the thought leaders and things like that, they all have questions. Questions that get proper answers, not just yes, no's. Gets you to think. So what I suggested was, well, in the front of your puzzle book, well, it could be your question book now. Could still be yellow, by the way, to make the best question book. You write down some questions first. So even before you have a puzzle, an issue, a puzzle, a problem or worry, a bit of anxiety about something, and a bit of the noise, before you even write those down, you might want to write some questions down. Things like, is this true? How do I know it's true? Where's the data? Does anybody think it's untrue? Is there another truth? So you get the theme of that bit. Or another question might be, is this something I can affect? Is there something that I can actually deal with? If it's yes, then the next question will be, how and when? Or maybe, who do I know has dealt with this type of issue before? If it's obviously a no, I can't deal with this. As in, no, I can't deal with it. Oh, it's too much. No, it's not in my power to deal with this. I cannot affect the result of what I've heard and what I'm worrying about. So if it's a no, what are you going to do? Instead of parking it, you can just go, hey, Bye. See you later. Can't deal with it. We talked about, if you remember, looking through the window, looking through the window and looking into your road, your street, your avenue, and knowing that's where you can make the biggest effect with the people you know and the people around you. And that's all you can do. That's all you can do. If you can do more, then you do more. But if the answer is no, you can just wave that issue goodbye, because it's, well, nothing you can do. So maybe you want to say, is this thought, this worry, really protecting me? Because we know that's the positive intention, isn't it? Positive intention from your unconscious mind is to protect you. So I'm going to give you this worry. So you'll either pull you away from that particular place or prepare you for it. Excuse me. So is this really protecting me? Or is it just something random? Going back to, is it true? Is it clickbait? Is it somebody just pulling stuff out of the earth? And we've seen this so many times, especially if you read some of that clickbait and then you read the rest of the article. The headline makes no sense at all. It's not even included within the article. And the article sometimes doesn't even have any data to back itself up, from a source. Someone said. So, and if it's not protecting you, let it go. This is just random. It has no bearing, no sense, no firmness. I can't hold on to this because it's, made up. So that's going back to that first question, I guess. Is it really true? Or you might want to say, what can I learn about this? What? And this is a bit like, is it protecting me, and what can I affect it? It might not be able to affect it, but let's learn from it. What could I learn from it that would assist me? Not just randomly, well, I know more, because that intellectual knowledge is good, but if you don't use it or do anything with it, to me, it's a waste of time. Action, being and doing. So you've got to write it down and then take action. So what can I learn from this? That's another great question. And then how can I use what I learn? So you've got loads of different questions, and I know that you could make up even more. So what are the type of questions you can think of? Write them down first. So this is a great puzzle, isn't it? What are questions that are open-ended but are going to support you? Not questions like, oh, what happens if it's true and I can't do anything? That's that old loopy type one, where your unconscious mind used to scare the living daylights out of you. And, well, doesn't work, does it? Because it becomes a massive conflict. Instead of protecting you, your unconscious mind is protecting you from the things that frighten you by frightening you, which is a conflict. Or you might want to say, well, what resources have I got, or would I need to be able to deal with it? What could I learn to deal with this? So again, well, I need a bit more confidence. When have I been confident before? Or when have I dealt with a similar situation and had the confidence and successful ending to that, maybe I could use that type of skill, that resource. Who do I know who could explain it? There are so many questions. So you could have a whole list of these questions. So when you write them down, when you write the little issue down now, that little piece of the noise or that thing that you're starting to worry about, and this could be everything. It's not necessarily just noise. It could be, could be about your work, your career. Oh, I'm starting to worry what other people are going to think about me. Write that sucker down. What can I do about it? Is this really true? How do I, and that great one, got this one, how do I know? How do I know it's true? How do I know they're thinking about me? Oh, that is one of the best questions. I said to my clients, we go, I feel this, I feel that. How do you know you feel it? How do you know? How do you know that's going to happen? So there's a great one. Write that in capital letters. How do I know? There's a fallback for everything. If I can't think of a question, how do I know? But say this is not just for problems from the noise. It could be things about, say, relationships. It could be your work. Anything and everything that gives you an issue, gives you a worry, gives you some concern, some anxiousness, anxiety. Write that sucker down and have these questions in hand. So you could, and they're just going to interlink. And the best one, I trust my unconscious mind. So I'm looking down those questions. The one that's going to serve you most will jump out at you. So then, here's the thing. We've got the questions written down. We come and have this issue that it has our looping worries, which we know in the past, if we'd have let them keep looping, we would have gone from worry to anxiety to depressive OCD, all that stuff. But now we write it down. We've put it in our back pocket. We come back to it. Like I said, we come back to it. So we either come back to it right now, and we look at that, we write down the issue, go to our questions and go, that's the question to ask. And you write that question down. So whether you do it right away or you go back to it, you write that question down. How do I know? Now, what you can do, and this is what I suggest, is you write that question down. How do I know? Is it something? What can I learn from this? How is this really protecting me? Or whatever the most appropriate question comes to mind. You write it underneath your statement of the worry. And guess what you do then? You leave it. You bugger off. You go and do something for half an hour. You may just go to bed if it's in the evening, because now you don't have to think about it because you've written it down. And what you've done is, by leaving that question without a conscious answer, someone else has got to answer it. And who's that? Your unconscious mind. Because this is the phenomena I was talking about earlier. Because if you have a question and you just leave it, your unconscious mind has to find the answer. Just like it has to try to find the answer of those looping thoughts. What happens? Blah, 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 blah. It's a bit like, the example I give to my clients is, it's a bit like, I know somebody who you'd love to meet. Oh, you really would. You've got the same values, you've got the same type of beliefs, and that hobby, that thing that you love, your passion, they have the same passion. And you go, oh, Cluffy, I'd love to meet them too. They sound an ideal, someone I'd love to have a cup of coffee with, to explore different things in that interest, that like-minded interest. And what's her name? And it's not Tony, by the way, if you've seen that on YouTube. And you go, do you know what? I can see them in my mind's eye, but I can't remember their name. But I will. I will remember it. And then I leave it. And they go on their way. And I go on my way. And I'm either in the shower, in the toilet, maybe I'm in the supermarket, anywhere, driving the car. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes their name. Because what's happened is, I've said, I will remember it. And then I left it. And the unconscious mind will then go through and find it for you and give it to you. It's just a natural phenomenon that your unconscious mind just does in service for you. So we're now going to use it by saying, here's my issue, my little worry, the little bit of noise or what I'm thinking about that's giving me a little cause of concern now, because only a little bit of concern now. Could get worse if we didn't deal with it. Now I've asked this wonderful question. Now I'm going to leave it to you, your unconscious mind, my best friend. Because if you really want to protect me, now you go and find the answer to this really empowering question. And then when you come back, you have to set a time. And I'll be back. In the morning. I'll be back at 10 o'clock or wherever. Maybe I'll be back in 5 minutes. When I go and sit down and have my cup of coffee, and I'll get my puzzle book out. I got my pen. And guess what? It's funny how answers suddenly just come up like, there is no data. They made it up. Actually, I'm making it up. Well, I can do this instead. Maybe I could ask them. Maybe I could do this. And the answers will just fall out. And then you can ask another question of those answers if you wanted. Is that really true? How do I know? Do I know somebody who has done that before, who could guide me, mentor me, that type of thing? And then you leave it. Or maybe the answers keep rolling. But when they stop, leave them open-ended. I know there's a lot of writers who, instead of going all the way down to the end of the page and the last paragraph and the last sentence, they will actually finish mid-sentence, mid-paragraph. And you think, that's crazy. The loop has not been completed. And you go, yeah, because in the morning, I'm going to finish that that paragraph. I'm going to finish that sentence, and my unconscious mind is going to lead me on to the next. And that's a great way. A great way. And that's the phenomena that we're talking about. It's so natural. We use it. So we can use it anywhere. And this is where we're using it here on this thing. And it works. It really just works. Because when it works, well, not when, when it works, as it works always, you get some wonderful answers. You get answers that your conscious mind couldn't think of. And the thing about this is, the answers you get, because they're unconscious mind answers, and your unconscious mind is there to protect you, and it's found a wonderful answer, it has to do that as opposed to the worry, the anxiety. So, isn't it amazing that how we can use our best friend and just trick them a little bit, but give them something so worthwhile to do that you know is going to protect you anyway, and you get some wonderful results. Now, we're just using this for worry, anxiety, things like that. We might have to talk about how we could use this in another way, but that's for another time, isn't it? Because I wonder what it'd be like if you used that unconscious phenomena in a different way. That's a pause. That's a pause for your unconscious mind to go, oh, there's more to come. I wonder what it is. I'll tell you in another episode. But the thing is, we've got this. So we got this, a way of having this wonderful yellow little puzzle book. And we can either say goodbye because we've written the problem and realize there is no backup, there is no data, it's made up. Or we've got these lovely questions and we're finding these wonderful answers and we act upon them. No point in having the answers if you're not going to act upon them. So you do that. But then we have this part about taking responsibility, because I've heard it before, and no doubt I'll hear it again, on similar things, but this one in particular. But I haven't got a puzzle book, Paul. I haven't got a puzzle book. So, what's the answer? Bloody go and get one. But it's not yellow. Doesn't have to be yellow. Just my best ones are yellow. Could be your favourite colour. Give it a blooming name. I used to call my journal Jenny Journal. She's still there. But get a puzzle book. Just get one. There's no excuse to having a puzzle book. You can get them anywhere. A puzzle book can be a folded up piece of paper, because that's the next thing. You could just have a little bit of paper. Because, well, I didn't carry it with me. I didn't carry my puzzle book with me, and my puzzle book is the only place I can write these things down. Balls. Get a piece of paper. Borrow a pen. Write the worry down and say, I'm going to deal with this later when I get home to my puzzle book, the one I've just got. What else? Oh, I've forgotten it, Paul. Okay, and I haven't got a piece of paper. Haven't got a pen. Most people, generally everyone, has a phone. And a phone with all these wonderful blooming apps. And I've seen them. You see these people, and as they're flicking through, they've got trillions and trillions and trillions of apps. Well, it's free, unless you want to go to the paid version, something like Evernote or Notebook. I think most phones come with like a notebook, and you can just write it down. Tip-tappy, and just write it down the best way you can. And then you can go, I'll deal with this later. Look at that. That's a statement. I'll deal with this. I'll deal with this at tea time. I'll write it in my puzzle book at tea time. In fact, I'm going to set an alarm, because phones have got alarms too. Deal with this at 5. Awesome. So find the app for you. What else? Oh, I haven't got an app. Okay. I'm sure there's people who speak like that, but maybe you just think, well, I don't really want to use apps. But you could, because you use them all the time. But if you didn't, record the bloody thing. Record it. Every phone's got a recorder. Just bring that to the front of the phone, record it, and say to yourself, I'm going to write that up later. And maybe then tippy-tappy on your alarm again. Voice recording from my puzzle book, the one I've just bought. It's not yellow, but it's my favourite colour. But yellow would be better. People write telephone numbers on their hands, don't they? Write a note on your hand. Maybe just a symbol. What symbol would represent that issue? So when you got back home, when you looked at that little daisy that you've written on your hand, and then you go to your puzzle book. It's all there. What else could you do? Well, hey Google. I hope that hasn't set your Google off, but hey Google, make a note. Alexa, I hope that hasn't set you off. Alexa, make a note. Set a reminder. There's so many ways. The world is full of ways to help you. They're not all a hindrance. They're not all overwhelming. Just pick the simple ones that work. So the world is full of every way that you can do this. I do suggest, though, when you do it, you do write in your puzzle book, because when you write it, you're doing so many different things. You're repeating it with your inner voice, which makes you remember it even more. Maybe even you remember in pictures. Maybe you remember in a few emotions. So it gets you to describe it and takes you back to that initial thing. And then when you reread it, or just when you read it, you've written in your puzzle book, you've left it till the evening, you go back, and as you read that question or read the issue, it brings it back to life. Because if you just think to yourself, I'll do this later, I guarantee you, another guarantee that nearly always works, something else comes along, comes in one ear and pushes that other stuff out the other. Gone forever, apart from the worry, because that's got a little bit bigger. And we're going to knock that on the head by parking it and getting your unconscious mind to do it. And because it doesn't take it, because you're getting your unconscious mind to do most of it, doesn't take any energy for you. And you know you're going to get bloody good answers. Because that's what unconscious minds do. Give them the right question, they'll find the brilliant answer for you. So how can I use this? There's a question you could ask now, isn't it? How could I use this? Because Cluffy's come up with a real good one here. Yeah. There's lots of swear words you could say to yourself for how good I am. So there you go, using your puzzle book. And this was going to be a 5-minute quickie, by the way. But the weird thing was, I said to my unconscious mind actually this morning, yesterday we did that, and I want to write out some notes for a longer podcast. But in the meantime, or maybe, here's something I could think of. I could do a 5-minute quickie on this. And it's just grown and grown. So, it might be on YouTube as well. I'm not quite sure how the recording is going to go. We'll see. Might just throw it there anyway. I'm not dressed as... That's just my recording gear. Just relaxing. Being cool. Not cool, but as in cool, as in chilled, I guess. So, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you just do it. Don't just listen. Please do not just listen to these podcasts and go, yeah, that's a really interesting subject. I know it. Do what you know what you do. Mastery. Even if it's only mastery of the yellow puzzle book, the Jenny Journal. But this is a yellow puzzle book, or green or blue, whatever colour. Could be any size, by the way. It could be teeny or big. You can get little Moleskine ones if you want a nice touchy-feely one that fits in your back of your pocket, or in your back pocket, or in your front pocket, or in your wherever, in your purse. You can have the most loveliest of pens. I love to write with a fountain pen. Old school. Tippy-tappy sometimes. But you go back and think. Anyway, labouring the point, Cluffy. I hope I have explained that pretty clearly so you can use it. Please do. Even if you get a piece of paper and go, this is what Cluffy talked about. How can I use this? Is it true? Is it true what he said? Will it help me? How will it help me if I did this? You write those down, write that sucker down and get those answers. I know the answers will come to say, absolutely. This is going to really help us. And your unconscious mind going to say, I'm not going to have to scare the life out of you. I don't need to now because we're going to work on these things. And then you'll get to see things before they become a worry. You'll actually go, I'm not even going to make a note of that because that's bullshit. That's nothing to worry about. Because it generalizes into a wonderful way of doing it. You become an unconscious habit. So you've got like a filter before you need the filter. And this is like another filter, but a filter with an end in mind. It works. All I know is it works. That is a Cluffy guarantee. It works. Believe you me. And I never understood that. What a weird saying, isn't it? Believe you me. Doesn't make sense at all, but believe you me, it works. Anyway, until the next time, please share this because it's going to take the worry and concerns and anxiety and all that big stuff, maybe even put me out of business. There'll be no one to work with as a client. But share this episode if you would. Tell them how great the Personal Development Unplugged podcast is, how wonderful old Cluffy is, if you want to. But please do share the episode because I know it works and I know it'll help other people. And when we do that, you'll never know how far the ripples of change will go, because they will. Because if you stop somebody worrying about something and they find the answer and they do something, and by example, they show it to their family, their friends, and people learn then unconsciously by being the example of the solution, of what can be done. Because whatever you think you are, you're more than that. And that just grows exponentially, if I could ever say that word. So, yeah, please share. If you have any thoughts, queries on this, or any other issues that you'd like a simple solution to, whether it's a process which is unconscious or something like this which is conscious and unconscious, something you can physically do at the time, let me know. Email me, feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. You get a lovely personal reply to me. Email goes nowhere else but to me because I'm the only bugger here, as I always tell you. And I'll come up with something. I know I will, because I'll ask my unconscious mind for an answer and I'll let it stew. And then it'll come back to me as an answer, and then we'll have what we've got here. So please do remember to subscribe. I'm sure you're subscribed. You are subscribed. But when you subscribe, please listen. And then when you listen and you learn, you can use those learnings and then become that master, because you're doing and being, knowing what you do and doing what you know. Anyway, that's it from me. Apart from a big thank you. Big thank you from my heart to say I know time is valuable. Your time is valuable. In fact, I'm taking too much time up now, but that first bit was valuable time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Let's go make a difference in the world. Let's make a difference to us, you, me. And thereby, when we make that difference, we make a difference to the people around us and then little old planet Earth. That is total ecology. And that's what works for everyone. Then the noise gets into a lovely song. We start singing with our real voice. All that lovely metaphorical stuff. Anyway, until the next time, my friend, have more fun than you can stand and fly. Just fly. Bye-bye. Oh, just before you fly. And I know we've finished it all now, but if you wanted to, well, to see this recording in action, just go to YouTube. Search me out on YouTube, and I'm sure if you just search out the title, you'll find it. Or search out my name, okay? I just thought I'd play around with a video and just see what it was like for you to see me. Me seeing you. Okay, you can fly now.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.